India, West Bengal. A train ride through the afternoon glow. A rhythmic sequence of rice fields and irrigation ponds. Now in winter, these large ponds hold the nourishing water from the monsoon period. It will need much water if the soil is to produce rice. Rice is the staple food in India. Soil, even if it appears to be merely hostile dust, must be cultivated in order to become a source of life. Work and life close to the soil. In the Indian villages, it is visible, it is vital. The larger fields outside the village mostly do not belong to those who work on them. Whether the farmers work on their own small field or on the larger ones of the landowners, their children will no longer be involved in their parents' work as in the past. The superior knowledge for children in their parents' view is the knowledge delivered by the school. In India, however, like in other modern societies, there is also this quest for broader approaches to education. How to develop children's consciousness about ecological relations and balances. How to revalue forgotten knowledge of their parents and communities. How to support children's awareness of soil. Free space on this ground, on this soil, and we are in nobody's way. The courtyard of the afternoon school where the village children can come anytime. Suchana, a nature school, founded years ago by two artists, an Indian and his English wife. Today they are rehearsing for a weekend festival when Suchana will once again present its activities to the villagers. The children will also present their nutrition garden and their environmental learning as they investigate the natural resources of their rural economy. How can we contribute to healthy food for all of us? And what have we found out about organic interdependence? How to treat and protect the soil in a way that our plants will grow successfully. Our vegetables, which, as the teachers say, will supplement and enrich the often still scarce food supply in families of landless farmers. Soil is at the base of our lives. Checkers you can play everywhere on the ground, but a game like cricket will require a special kind of soil. Special in what way? Not an easy project at all. All soil is not the same.
It's a bit dangerous if you're running down here, so I'm just flattening it so it's safe.
We cut out the soil and put it over there, and that soil we can't use for the cricket pitch because it's too hard and it cracks when there's no water. This soil is a lot harder, so you can break off bits, but it's not so easy, and that means that it dries up a lot easier. This is what most people use for making their houses, and we've mixed this sand with the soil that we put in there so that it makes it less compact.
They had to think about how to design it, about where to get the materials, about how to get the work done, about what work would need to be done. And it's taken quite a long time, but they have got this far with it. They learnt about the soil, for example, that it's hard to work with soil, especially when it's dry and heavy. I don't think they knew that so well before.
On the way to another village, a government school. First attempts at a nutrition garden. With modest support from a German NGO, a social worker tries to start similar school gardens in the schools of this region.
This is a medicine plant. In Bengali, we called it bashok. This is for cough and cold. It cures cough and cold very much, and it planted by these students, these eco group students, and it also gives us good medicine for skin, vegetables, and other things also.
Become aware of the garbage littered everywhere. The soil gives us medicinal plants and nourishment, but it is a vulnerable thing and must be actively protected against the damages of civilization. What has been scattered on these few square meters of soil can either be damaging or fertilizing. Is it plastic garbage or is it useful material for compost? This is a plastic cup. Look at this disposable plate made of big leaves. Right, the plate should go into the compost bin. Another product of sustainable education, not costly, adding to the scarce educational material at this school. Children have collected insects.
When they go to the garden and see the insect, they collected it and preserve it into the formalin. In this column, we can see how much students.
Our social worker takes us to the next school in this area. Here, the nutrition garden is larger, but we feel that the children themselves are not really entrusted with its care. Still much work ahead for the social worker to convince the teachers of the educational value of working with hands and soil. Not only should this experience become part of everyday school life, the children should also take their knowledge and skills home to their families.
This soil, the manure, they did not know about it. But when we taught them, they learned it very quickly, and they used it in their kitchen garden, even in their home kitchen garden also.
Some seeds and a teacher trainer who has arrived today after a train ride of several hours from Kolkata. a model lesson for the older children, for the younger children, and for the teachers.
কৃষ্ণচূড়া কত বড় গাছ হয়? কি হয় কৃষ্ণপুরে? ছোট চারাগুলো যখন বড় হয় তারপরে মাটিতে লাগানো। থেকে একজন আসো, চলে এসো, চলে এসো, কোনো কথা বলতে হবে কেন? বুঝে নিয়েছো? হ্যাঁ, এখানে রাখো, এখানে রাখো, তোমার কাছে রাখো। এইটা কেঁচো খেয়েছে।
Different varieties of soil, different kinds of seeds. Learning to recognize the qualities and varieties of soil. Mix these varieties with organic fertilizer for different seeds and plants. In Kolkata, we meet our teacher trainer again. Here, the focus of his environment education is another group, urban residents. Trying to do something about the city's pollution, also for the benefit of their children. Urban gardening. Which kinds of plants, which methods of cultivation are useful for nutrition gardens on the city's roofs? During the weekend training session on the roof terrace of this institute, the participants can try, step by step, to investigate the interaction of soil and plant. We accompany one of the participants to her home, to the roof garden of her apartment complex. She is a highly qualified IT expert and lives in a new residential area of the city, surrounded by empty space on many roofs.
This is Keshtapur Canal. It is a canal which has been dug out from river Hooghly and it meets another river in the east part of Kolkata. This water will gradually settle all its sludge on the process, on the banks. Right now if you see, there are two colors of the river. That water is coming from the Ganga. It is better, it is white and clean to some extent, and this blackish water is coming from the city and it is bringing all the tannery waste. You have lot of tanneries around Kolkata. They release all their waste into this type of rivulets and they are polluted by the atmospheric pollution, the air pollution, as well as the landfill pollution. The leachate from the landfill will poison the soil, and the plants we get in the market, as you saw outside, they will be all containing huge amount of heavy metal in their tissues. People who live here mainly go to work in the IT offices. So they have hardly got much time to think about their health. They live in such poisonous conditions where the canal is just flowing by and the food, you will find a lot of food shops around the canal. He thinks that I have money, so I go to the market and buy it. But he never bothers where the thing comes from, what hardships the person who went through to produce it. I mean, I am against consumerization now. That is the main reason I leave a corporate company and start doing something which is for community and soil and ecology. So what you see is mixed planting. Not a single pot is there where you have only one type of plant. Because mixed planting helps the soil to get balanced, every plant get proper nutrition. And marigold is like a medicinal plant. It has a smell, can have the smell, and same is calendula. It protects the plant from nematodes. The roots will not die off easily due to nematodes. They are not hybrids, so you should keep seeds of them so that you grow next year. Kutu! এরকম করে জল দাও গাছটায়, দেখো তলাটা, হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ দাও। এই গাছটায় দাও, ছড়িয়ে ছড়িয়ে সবকটা গাছে দাও। একটুখানি লিফ ছাড়ো, হ্যাঁ এবার হাতটা ঘোরাও। So now we are just introducing them to the earthworms, so because that will help them to actually learn and love composting. When I was a child I also did not like, but now I do. And those things in the small seed trays, these will be bigger in size after some time, and I will transplant them to bigger pots. The garden looks small, but it has lots of seeds inside the. Here I have grown potatoes. You can find very small size potatoes here. So she has counted, I don't know how many tomatoes. I have almost 36 tomatoes now. So this one smells, but when it dries up in the sun and it's ready for compost, for the eating of, like a manure. Okay, so this is the wet cow dung. She collects the cow dung and she will find lots of buffaloes and cows grazing. So she will go out in the afternoon after the cows and get them. So, and we wanted to have cow urine also. So I suggested her, you take a gunny bag and go to the cow shed and put that gunny bag in the floor. Then they will have to eat all these things and make me a rich gold black compost. When I started with normal soil, I bought soil and started, nothing grew actually, and I found it is dead soil. So I realized that the health of the soil, the life of the soil, the bacteria and you see the rich black soil that I have now come up with after 6-7 months effort, that grows, and that is what we have to go to. I mean, that is where the health of ourselves are. We are all coming out of the soil.
To secure the soil under your feet in India, there is always a fight against erosion. On the way to the Ganges Delta, endless constructions of wood and stone in order to protect the settlements and the fields from being washed away. Here, the soil is also alive underwater. The mangrove forests of the Sundarbans. Endless areas seem to lie neither above nor underwater. They are both, depending on high or low tide. In this amphibian area of the earth, between fresh and sea water, man tries to make use of the soil. So often devastated by drought in this region, a different kind of agriculture has evolved. On their way to school through the morning fog, children walk along the high walls erected long ago to protect the island from tides and storms. When the teacher trainers come from Kolkata, the children enthusiastically present the impressive documents of their investigations into the unique ecology of their villages. They have collected leaves and plants, they dried them, and they have cataloged their seed collections and diagrams according to the seasons. The plants have been defined and annotated in botanical terms, and they are systematically grouped in tables and statistics.
So then they would go ahead and preserve these seeds. Okay, fine, so that when the summers come, I know these seeds would be required. Again, when the winter comes, so that also is like from the children, you're going back to the community, reaching like to more people. So that's what it is.
কি গাছ বলো আগে? চিরবসন্ত গাছ। কি কাজে লাগে গাছ? ঠাকুর সেবায় লাগে। আচ্ছা, আর কি কাজে লাগে? আমাদের লিখে লেখা আছে কোথাও? রুই মাছ। রুই মাছ। রুই মাছ আমরা খাই? পাওয়া যায় আমাদের এখানে? আচ্ছা, এইটা কি মাছ? কি করে? রোগ ছড়ায়। বেশ। কতগুলো? 45 85
Potashi, yes. The mango tree is more in this area. It's 85 in number. From this type of activity, the children has learned how to survey and how to count their own tree and how to make it preserve, and which is more in number and which is less in number. So the trees which is less in number, that need to be preserved for the future, and which is more in number, that trees can be a good source of food and nutrition for the children, from which it can grow up and the children can get the good food and nutrition.
The nutrition garden outside has another important effect. The children can escape from the strictly collective teaching of Indian schools. Here the children will not shout in chorus the predetermined answers. Here instead they can cooperate. They can argue in small groups. And perhaps they might add still another experiment? Working with their hands enhances their learning and imagining abilities. And they will have to accept, too, the less respected aspects of hands-on activities for a fertile soil. Tasks that would normally be assigned to others, to the untouchables, or to the casteless. But in this traditional agriculture, hardly anything can be more valuable than animal manure. As valuable as the precious rainwater, the ponds.
They're showing that this pond is having some kind of azolla type of trees, which is the feed for these insects and for the fish. And then it comes to the frog, then snake, then water hyacinth, and this one.
The ecological awareness of these children oscillates between the good water of their village ponds and the constant threat of saltwater attacks by increasingly frequent storms. In their research boxes, the children collect the findings of their investigations also on climate change. They are encouraged to carry such results home and discuss them with their parents. The teacher trainers come from an institute for rural development in Kolkata. Founded by the agricultural philosopher Ardhendu Chatterjee 35 years ago, not as a project for environment education in schools, rather as support for food-insecure farmers, the marginalized and the landless. But Chatterjee too realized that an awareness for the resources of their communities must be supported in children at an early age.
In our village, how many kinds of soil is present? And which soil is good for which kind of vegetable or grain? Where you grow rices and where you grow pulses, and why? Why you are doing that?
The children leave the classroom. They roam through the village, visiting one family after the other as they take up their systemic charting of plants and trees. In their environment research, they must also include the knowledge of adults. The adults in these villages, mostly women, their mothers. Find out things for yourself. Trial and error. Cooperate. Perhaps you will also discover something that adults did not yet know. Something of practical use, perhaps. And the youngest find this just as compelling.
These students, they feel proud that they have discovered something which they share with their parents or with their friends. They feel that they know this, they understand this better than many other.
Charting the birds of the Sundarbans.
কালো রং পরেরটা কালো রং আচ্ছা পালকের রং কিরকম লেখো হলুদ
Here again, every corner of the village must be scrutinized, so the learning at school must not necessarily be remote from everyday life, that in many manifestations is still very close to the soil.
জাম গাছ সবেদা গাছ খেজুর গাছ জবা ফুল গাছ
Appreciating the work the previous students have done, their beautifully written and precisely drawn documents, to which they will soon add the results of their research of birds in the mangroves.
We ask what happens during the fall, down because it is winter. So what happens during the fall? So they start first discovering, they make a list of maybe 20 trees in the village, and some which are deciduous and some which are evergreen. So deciduous is losing all the leaf during the winter. So then we ask, if the tree leaf is becoming dry and falling down, so by now there should be a very big pile. What happened to that dry leaf? Where did it go? This whole concept is, rather than memorizing science, doing practical. So it should be action based, it should be entertaining, it should be something that is possible with easy material, it should be something that involves interaction among the children, and keeping record.
Keeping record, documenting. This makes their research work an excellent example of environment education of the highest order.
তোর মাথার ধারে 9 10 11 12 এই তো একটা 12 কই এই তো 11 12 হ্যাঁ 12 13 কই 13 কোন বাড়ি আমার করে একটা ওই মুরগির ঘরের ধারে বুঝা বাড়ি কোনে লিখবি আরে এইটা ভুলে গেছে 5 এই দিদি ধ্যান দিদি ওই ভাই চাটে তো সব লেখা হয়ে গেছে এ ভিডিও করতে
আর একটা পুঁই শাক একটা লাল শাক আর এটা বেগুন
The needy families form groups and they cultivate this kind of vegetables in their own home gardens, and they practice this kind of vegetables through organic farming, through organic manures, cow dung and other bio fertilizers.
The transition to organic farming is the big project of the village, a woman's project. They took the first steps into this new way of thinking through their school children, and now the new approaches are backed by regular meetings in order to become more reliably organized.
There are various kinds of vegetables and also some herbal medicine which give them nutritional security and also gave them to save some money which they usually expend during the health disorders or for the doctors.
খুব ক্ষতি হতো এখন দেখছি এই জৈব সার এইসব বিভিন্ন ভার্মি কম্পোস্ট ব্যবহার করে অমৃত সার তরল পানি তারপরে এই তামাক দ্রবণ.
Many questions are being discussed here. Questions of the organization in the village, questions of input and results. Back from the Sundarbans to the solid ground of East Midnapur, on the way to a school at the outskirts of a small town. The welcome dance by the school children may perhaps quote gestures of work in the fields.
তাড়াতাড়ি শুষে নেয় না আচ্ছা কোন মাটির জল তাড়াতাড়ি শুষে নেয় এটা আমি পরে দেখাচ্ছি পরে পরীক্ষা করে দেখাচ্ছি
3 types of soil are presented, a demonstration of their water-holding capacity.
কি মাটি এঁটেল মাটি না এতে কিসের ভাগ বেশি আছে কাদার ভাগ বেশি আছে না এই মাটিটা দেখো তোমরা
The teacher answers the questions that no child has had a chance to ask. And the teacher ignores the fact that 90% of his students cannot follow his demonstration because they can see nothing. In India, environment education has already been introduced as part of the school curriculum. But when the teaching methods remain the same as of old, the new topic falls flat.
ধরে রেখেছে কোনটা এঁটেল মাটি আর সবচেয়ে জল কোনটাই কম বেলে মাটি
This school does not seem to have much trust in children's own activity and competences. We are shown the compost area from outside, but only hesitatingly is it opened for a child in order to demonstrate its management. The nutrition garden of this school is remarkably large and well kept, but it seems the children rarely have access to it. Hopefully, however, its harvest will add nutrition to the rice midday meal that has meanwhile become obligatory in all Indian junior schools.
We cut this place and we are putting the soil here, and here is one small hole, and the same cup, after putting 1 cup of water, this cup is kept here. So we can see how the water is going down and also how much water is coming out, how much is held back by the soil and how much is actually coming out. So the question comes that different soils have different density and also different water holding capacity. So rather than telling this in this technical language, we ask them why they think this happened. If they have difference of opinion, 3 children think one way and 2 children think another way, that is when actually the next experiment becomes important. If they all agree, that is not a very much actionable learning activity. This is primary knowledge that is collected by the children themselves, and then they interact among themselves and with the teacher, that whether they are now confident to present it to other children in the school or in the community or something.
Presentation skills, to dare to give a report, to speak freely to an audience about one's learnings and findings. An eco-club meeting in the evening, self-organized with the help of 2 teachers and a mother or 2.
প্রথমে আমরা এই সমীক্ষাটা করি যে আমাদের এলাকায় একটা ম্যাপ তৈরি করি যে আমাদের এলাকায় কত গাছ থাকতে পারে এবং কোন কোন গাছগুলো হারিয়ে যাচ্ছে করি যে আমাদের এলাকায় কত গাছ থাকতে পারে এবং কোন কোন গাছগুলো হারিয়ে যাচ্ছে এবং বিভিন্ন বনৌষধি বিভিন্ন আসবাবপত্র এগুলোর উপরে
Over the last 10 years, a real treasure has been collected by these children and adults. Herbariums of medicinal plants, manuals on weeds, or rather on local plants underestimated in their nutritious value, maps and charts of villages and their natural resources, pie charts with observations on climate change in this area. In this rural eco-club, arts, research, singing, close to a high level of worldwide democratic reflection too. We shall overcome.
বন্ধু ভাই আমার
The songs about nature and the seasons, songs by the famous philosopher and poet Rabindranath Tagore. Save plant, save planet. Low school attendance of children and their teachers in remote Indian villages is still a largely unsolved problem. But for these children here, attendance seems to be anything but a problem. They are obviously happy to learn what this particular school is to offer, the different qualities of soil.
সাদা সাদা ভাগ নাকি অর্থাৎ এই মাটিটাতে কি হয় বলো তো এই যে মাটিটা আমরা দেখছি এটা কোথায় থাকে এটা কি এটাও মাটি এটাও কি মাটি তাই তো হ্যাঁ আর এটা কি ধরনের মাটি মনে হচ্ছে হচ্ছে
Which one of these three soils will be good for which kinds of seeds, and why?
এটা দোআঁশ মাটি
আরেকটু বড় চাপাটা বের করো
এটা বেলে মাটি বা শসা গাছের চাষ হয় বেগুন ব্রিঞ্জাল টমেটো
এবার বলে দে দ্রবণে নাকি
The children also learn to prepare rice seeds in a way to make them as productive as possible. The rice seeds are first stirred in different liquids.
গাভীর নাকি যেন পুরো ভর্তি না হয়ে যায় উপরে যেন একটু ফাঁকা থাকে বুঝতে পারলে
In a last water bath, some buffalo urine is added. The children pretend not to be bothered by the pungent smell. Then spread out in the sun to dry.
একজন হাত দি দে দেখো দে শুনতে হাত দে নো ওইটা দাঁড়া
এই হলো এবার কি করব না এটা ঢাকনা দিয়ে আমি আবার ভরেছে এটা ঢাকনা দিয়ে আমি রেখে দিই
The whole community is proud of this garden. Never, so the teacher tells us, has any plant been stolen from this garden. But the parents have built a wall around their children's nutrition garden just in case. After the beds have been cleaned of dead leaves and of plastic, the children prepare their collected organic fertilizer before sowing.
প্রথমে এই কেঁচো পিঠের প্রথম পিঠটাতে ফেলবে না কি সার হবে সেটা কেঁচো সার নাকি জৈব সার হ্যাঁ বেশ ওটা ওখান থেকে কিভাবে সার আমরা বের করব ওইটা দেখিয়ে দাও একটু এটা জানুনি চালাও
They sieve the cow manure, which had dried for some time under the roof. Then they spread the fertilizing organic substances on the seed beds, economically, evenly. The teacher shows them once more how to mix it softly under the soil.
পেঁপের খোসা
পেঁপের খোসা সবজির খোসা নাকি যাও তুমি সেটাতে ফেলো কি বুঝি না
Their parents have delivered fresh manure from buffaloes and cows. The children empty this valuable material into another container. Back to Kolkata. Many millions of inhabitants produce much waste. The contrast to the rural villages becomes greater with each day. Right behind the highways, huge areas for waste deposit. The enormous amount of waste in India also generates many jobs. For the lower castes, of course. Pungent smell, dangerously poisonous fumes. Whole rivers are choked with garbage. This waste management is productive. India's recycling industry creates many jobs but operates at extremely low levels of environment safety. The poorest sections of the population are constantly alert to find parts of garbage usable for the recycling industry. An inroad for child labor, too.
Children actually, they go to the dumping ground where, municipal corporations, they dumps all the garbage. From there, they actually pick up whatever they think they could sell it. Mainly, children are mainly involved in this sort of work.
A bag of soil is carried to the narrow balcony of the slum school. The children will break it down to finer soil, appropriate for seedlings, and then fill this soil into a hanging basket for plants on the balcony. The fights between them disrupt their encounter with nature. For these children, the main purpose in life seems not to be overlooked.
তোমাদের যাতে হাত যায়
How they wish too to become active in this event with the soil and the seeds. It is almost a heroic task to bring some kind of ecological awareness to children in such living conditions. Intensely curious when the teacher explains the function of water for the growth of plants. Or are they only keen not to miss the action? The fastest will be first. Survival of the fittest.
Here is the survival of the fittest. If you go or visit any home with this child, you will see that 7 or 8 people are crammed up in a space, 10 feet by 10 feet space. And also they see a lot of violence, aggression from a very, from a very young age, and that's what they're exposed to. They know if they want to survive, they have to fight.
We ask the child to carry one plastic bottle, and that we cut it up, put soil in it and put seed in it, and ask them to tie it with some ropes, and then we ask the child to carry it home, where the child actually takes care of the things. And then maybe after 10 days we ask them again to bring it back to school to see how it has developed. If a child is exposed to greenery, exposed to plants, which also helps them to connect with nature and to retain all these values of a child, these qualities.
The plants on the roof of the neighboring slum school suggest an even more minimal encounter with plants and their growth.
They love to play with soil and mud, things like that, because I think there is some connection is there with a human being with the soil, because we all evolved from that.
A handful of soil in the middle of all these buildings.